All right. Inshallah ta'ala, let us begin. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Radiyallahu ta'ala anhum wa an kafatil mu'mineen. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri. Wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Amma ba'du, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Dear brothers and sisters, on this blessed night, I want to welcome all of you to our nightly Quran reflection session for this Ramadan. Ramadan Mubarak. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us a blessed month, to allow us the fruits of this month, to protect all of us and to enhance us and elevate us and to increase us in nearness to Him, tabaraka wa ta'ala, to protect all of us and our family and loved ones from the entrappings of our own nufus, and then from the harm of things that are visible to us and things that are invisible to us. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. We begin, alhamdulillah, this evening with our very first reflection on the first juz of the Quran. On this first night, alhamdulillah, this first juz of the Quran, beginning with Surah Al-Fatiha and the first half or so of Surah Al-Baqarah, the second chapter in the Quran. We also must keep in mind that this is from this point forward over the next 30 days, inshallah, over the next 29 to 30 days, that shaitan is quarantined from us, that shaitan is locked up from us, and much like he was quarantined from Jannah. And so we occasion this night with the quarantining of shaitan, with the reading of the story of the origins of the human being and how shaitan snares the human being into different traps. And so the beginning of this juz, let's do a general analysis, a general summary of this juz of the Quran. For those of you that have done the readings, inshallah, we will try to wrap it up and summarize it into 3 takeaway points, inshallah ta'ala. For those that will begin the reading tomorrow, inshallah, so you'll get a preview of how to, inshallah ta'ala, understand and digest the juz, inshallah ta'ala. Now, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins with Surah Al-Fatiha and then Surah Al-Baqarah. Surah Al-Baqarah, as we know, begins with the origin of the human beings. First of all, it summarizes all of humanity into 3 different types. Those that are believers in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ وَمَا أُنزِلَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ. The true believers in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is one typology, one category of human beings. The second one that the Quran mentions are those that are the opposite. So those who disbelieve. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا سَوَاءٌ عَلَيْهِمْ أَأَنذَرْتُهُمْ أَمْ لَمْ تُنذِرْهُمْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Then there are those who don't believe. So now human beings will be categorized both in these 2 cases. Those who believe on the one hand and those who do not believe on the other hand. And in between those 2 poles, right, in between the light and the darkness are various shades of gray. So you have the third category, which are those that say they believe, but in reality they don't believe, who misrepresent themselves and their own belief system. Shady human beings, right? And this makes up the bulk case in this juz. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses this third case of human beings as a form of instruction to us, right? So this is the point. The problem with this case, the problem with this third case, as we read in the juz, the problem with this class of human beings is that they are ill, they're not well, they're sick, and therefore their remedy is contained in the juz, but also it's a warning for us as well. And just like we are asked to quarantine ourselves from others that are sick in the physical sense, we also need to be mindful of a great sickness in the spiritual sense. And so Allah Ta'ala talks about the sickness of these people in the gray area, the shady people, who are neither true believers nor are fully clear in their disbelief either, but they are the hypocrites, the munafiqun. Fi qulubihim marad, Allah Ta'ala says, right? They have heart disease, right? They have heart disease. And it's not because of anything having to do with their high blood pressure or anything. It has to do with their low iman. right? They've got heart disease. And their heart disease, if they continue in this mode, then Allah Ta'ala will increase them in that disease. فَزَادَهُمُ اللَّهُ مَرَضًا. Allah Ta'ala will increase the disease, because if they don't seek help for it, they don't do the right thing, then they're going to spiral into a worse condition. And their condition is so significant and is so serious that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala starts the Quran with it. Allah Ta'ala brings this story at the beginning to orient us to the plan of the Quran, that this is a core human disease, heart disease. And it comes from the fact that we are not being true as a human race. Our problem is that we are not, often, many times, many of us are not true to what we believe in. And so there are true believers who believe and practice. And then there are real outward, obvious disbelievers who don't believe and don't practice, right? They do their own thing. And then there are folks in the middle who say they believe, but they don't really believe. They're not true to what they believe in. Because these are folks who have heart disease. Now, in this case, Allah Ta'ala uses this case of human beings as an example. And then he leads with a case study of what happens to folks when they succumb to heart disease. What are the symptoms of spiritual heart disease? What are the problems that it can lead to? And what are the social and human and spiritual challenges that can emerge from it? And that's why, dear brothers and sisters, the chapter of the Quran in the first juz is called alBaqarah. That's why it's called the cow. Not because the cow is important, but because the cow in this case represents the case study of folks that are not necessarily true to what they believe in. This is not everybody, but this is a case study. And so Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala begins by giving us clear examples of this case. So he starts off first with Adam alayhi salam and Hawa alayhi salam, and then what happened to them with Shaitan, and how Allah Ta'ala expelled Shaitan from the kingdom and informed Adam and Hawa that this was an enemy, so that we can understand that there's an enemy in our midst. But that enemy now is locked up. That enemy now is expelled from our midst. So we're left with ourselves, the reality of ourselves in this blessed month. And in doing so, we have to look at the state of our heart. How vulnerable are we to heart disease? And this is the topic of the first juz. Now, in doing so, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala tells us about the nature of hearts and tells us about the circumstances of the situation of heart disease. He gives us a case of some of the people of Musa alayhi salam, and how some of them reacted to some of the tests that they were given, some of the requests behind of Musa, a prophet Moses alayhi salam, and the situation of some of them and some of their hearts. Some that really believed, some that didn't really believe in so much, but they said they believed. So our commitment, our being true to what we believe in, is a constant theme in this juz. أَفَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْضِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفِرُونَ بِبَعْضِ. Allah Ta'ala says in one part of the juz, do you believe in a portion of the book and disbelieve in another portion of it, right? Allah Ta'ala gives tons of examples and reiterates the subtle and overt, actually, contradictions that we display on a constant basis, where we tend to play around with revelation and play around with our deen. So the first thing is that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala tells us that the situation of hearts, that hearts can be like stones in the juz, right? So there's an analogy that's drawn based upon a true situation, where some of the people of Musa were thirsty and they asked him for water, alayhi salam, and he cracks open the stones in their midst, and 12 different springs emerge from the stones, right? And Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says that every single tribe knew where they were to drink from, where their mashrab was. قَدْ عَلِمَ كُلُّ أُنَاسٍ مَشْرَبَهُمْ. Every single group of people knew where their mashrab was. They knew the source of their life. They knew where they were supposed to go, what they were supposed to absorb, what the limits of that were, not to transgress boundaries. They knew that, and they were given leeway. Kulu washrabu wala kulu washrabu. Allah Ta'ala told them, eat and drink and consume and enjoy yourself, right? وَلَا تَعْثَوْا فِي الْأَرْضِ مُفْسِدِينَ. Don't be corrupt in the land. Don't go over and beyond. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that the hearts of the people, of some of the people, are like stones, that they're even in some cases worse as well, right? Because there's some stones that can crack open, right? And there are other stones that don't, that can crack open and rivers gush forth, right? But the heart doesn't break sometimes when it has heart disease, right? So this is the first case, the analogy of the heart to rocks, and the drinking of the people from the mashrab, from the source of Musa alayhi salam, from a prophetic source where they had permission from. And so we take our mashrab is a prophetic source, and people draw from spiritual sources, and they know what's proper for them and what's not proper for them. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks also later on in the juz about the fact that people have other kinds of consumption habits as well, things that also affect their hearts, that they're drawn to the world, they're drawn to the material aspects of the world. And this material consumption, this material love is a contributor to heart disease. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the people that were tested with the calf. Notice the parallel with the title of the chapter is alBaqarah, the cow. And the case of the people and the golden calf, the ijla, right? The golden calf was it was a golden representation of the world. And the people who were following Musa, all of a sudden, some of them, not all of them, but some of them started to worship the golden calf. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as he said earlier, fi qulubihim marad, fazadahum Allahu marada. If people continue in the ways that contributed to their heart disease, if they don't quarantine their hearts and they don't collect themselves and protect themselves, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will increase them in the illness. And so when they started to worship the golden calf, when they didn't abide by the rules of their prophet, and this is a case study, an example for all of those, the Jews reminds us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused them literally to drink from the calf, meaning the golden calf itself. Allah ta'ala caused them to consume the material aspect of the calf, right? So this is very, very powerful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأُشْرِبُوا فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ الْعِجْلَ بِكُفْرِهِمْ, that Allah ta'ala caused them to drink literally the ijla, the gold part of the calf. In some of the commentaries it says the gold was melted down and went into the river and they drank from it. The deeper meaning is that the golden calf was material, and they loved the material, they loved the dunya, and this is part of heart disease. So if you love some of these people, when they loved the world, Allah caused their hearts to drink it, their hearts to absorb it. The world and the love of the world seeped into their hearts and their very well-being. And so they became worshippers of the calf, lovers of the calf, lovers of the world, worshippers of the world, right? The Prophet ﷺ said this is some of the worst form of being enslaved. Ta'isa li abd dinar, how wretched is the slave of gold, wa abd dirham, and silver, wa abd al-qamis, and the slave of material things, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that he actually caused them to absorb the gold calf, which in the Jews is called ijla, which is very interesting because ijla also is another word for the dunya, for the world, right? The world is called al-ajla, which means haste, and the nature of the world is to hastily go away. Things change quickly, time goes by fast, years go by fast. So another name for the world is ajla, which is from the same root as the golden calf. So this is also an allusion to the fact that Allah caused the people to have their hearts to absorb love of the world, love of the material, right? And this contributed to their state. This is about our consumption. The fact that what contributes to our hypocrisy, what contributes to our weakness in our belief, what contributes to our not being true to what we believe in, is our involvement and our absorption in the world. Right? This is what the case study is all about. Also, what's very important for us to keep in mind is the fact that this chapter, being called alBaqarah, being called the cow, reminds us of the real aspect, the deep aspect of this case study. Is that the point of the cow was that there was an atrocity that happened in the community. Someone was murdered. Someone lost their life. They were a victim. And the people of Musa, some of them were asked to slaughter a cow and to take the piece of the dead cow and to strike the victim's body, the corpse, the dead body, with the piece of the cow. When that happened, the victim came back from the dead. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala resurrected that person, and that person pointed out their assailant. They pointed out the person that killed them. They identified the criminal, and then they fell back dead again. This is very interesting in that the theme of resurrection, right? The theme of bodily resurrection is invoked not once, but twice in this juz. And later on tomorrow, as we'll see in the rest of the chapter of the Quran, it's invoked 3 more times. There are actually 5 times in the entire chapter of the Quran, of Baqarah, where bodily resurrection occurs, 5 different times, right? The first time is the case of Baqarah. But in this first juz, 2 of those cases occur. One is the case with the cow, which I just explained to you, and the other is the people that went up on the top of the mountain with Musa, and they said, Musa, we're really not going to believe in God and the wonders of God until we see God. We want to see God, right? We want to see Allah Ta'ala jahran. We want to see Allah Ta'ala, outright. And Allah Ta'ala says that He caused them to die by a great blast. He caused them to die, and then He resurrected them again. This is the second case in the juz. In this first juz, 2 cases where there was resurrection from the dead. This is very powerful, given the fact that these were case studies of people who were struggling with belief. These were situations, 2 incidents of people, first with the cow, and then the case of the people who went with Musa and asked to see Allah in actuality. They were struggling with belief. When they said, when Musa said, Allah asked you to slaughter a cow, they said, which cow? What kind of cow? What color is the cow? Struggling with belief, right? In joking ways and in trying to play games. Right, Allah Ta'ala says, that they try to joke around and play. يُخَادِعُونَ اللَّهَ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَمَا يَخْدَعُونَ إِلَّا أَنفُسَهُمْ. Right, they try to joke around with Allah. They try to play games with Allah and the believers, but they're only deluding themselves. So these 2 cases were about people that were struggling with their belief. فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضٍ. They were shady in their belief. They had not really firmly believed yet. And what happened? Allah Ta'ala introduced resurrection. Allah Ta'ala introduced resurrection, raising from the dead. In both cases. In the first case, it was the man who was already murdered. Allah brought him back to life. In the second case, it was the people themselves, as the small group of people that went with Musa and asked to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to strengthen their own conviction, and Allah Ta'ala caused them to die and then bring them back up. Now, what does this mean? Right? This is Allah Ta'ala reminding us that Allah Ta'ala yuhyi al-maut, right? Yuhyi al-maut. Allah Ta'ala can revive things that are dead. So even if the heart is diseased, even if the heart is spiritually dead, Allah Ta'ala can revive. Allah Ta'ala gives life. Allah Ta'ala gives energy. Allah Ta'ala gives renewal. So you can reach to Allah Ta'ala. Commit yourself to Allah Ta'ala, and Allah Ta'ala will yuhyi al-maut, yuhyi al-arda ba'da mawtiha. Allah Ta'ala will resurrect your what's fertile inside of you and use that to inspire iman in your heart. Right? This is the other point about the Baqarah, of which is contained in this first juz. It's a story, and it's a chapter, and it's a juz about resurrecting of the dead, which is an allusion to us to understand that we too will be resurrected to meet Allah, but more importantly, that we should die to the material world before we actually die. That we have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to revive our hearts. And be careful about what we consume of the material world, because that directly impacts the state of our hearts. So what's the takeaway? What's the takeaway from this first night and this first juz? 3 takeaways, and then we'll conclude for tonight, inshallah, for this first juz. Number 1, the first takeaway is quarantine your heart. This is the first takeaway. Quarantine your hearts. This Ramadan, quarantine your qulub. Be very, very vigilant about what you consume, right? What is ushribu, what goes into, what's absorbed in your qalb, in your heart, in your inner self. Be very careful. Quarantine it from deleterious, negative things in the world. This is what this moment is all about. quarantining the heart. And this is a chapter, this is a juz here about what happens when people don't quarantine themselves in the right ways, right? Meaning in the heart. Their hearts become hard, their hearts become stone, and it is very difficult for them to drink from the mashrab. It's very difficult for them to absorb from the religious source, right? So quarantine the heart, and then the heart can become, in the positive sense, like a stone. So it can be hardened from things that are harmful to it, but it can be also a source to allow water and life to spring forth from it. This is the first point. Quarantine your heart. The second part, the second takeaway is about choice, right? About what we choose. Because also in the juz is a lesson about human choice. We have to learn to choose the higher road. If the higher road is from a prophet, meaning the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if it's from the prophet, if it's from the nusus, if it's from our religious sources, that's the higher road. Everything we do must be about drinking and absorbing from that higher road. The moment we choose not to conform to that higher road and we want to make our own decision and our own choice based upon what we want because we think we know better, that's when we choose low. Remember, in the juz here is the lesson about the people who asked Musa alayhi salam, وَإِذْ قُلْتُمْ يَا مُوسَى لَن نَصْبِرَ عَلَى طَعَامٍ وَاحِدٍ. We can't be patient with just one kind of food, Musa, right? We can't be patient with this. We want more things. We want more diverse aspects of the world. Right? Make dua to Allah to produce many different things from the world from us. Right? Right? We want this kind of thing and that. We want to absorb and consume this, and we want to consume that, and we want this and we want that. And Musa alayhi salam saw how their nafs was going. Saw how they were getting out of control with their own desires and what they wanted. And he said, "Atastabdiluna alladhi huwa adna billadhi huwa khayr." Do you want something? Allah has put you in a situation. Allah has given you khair. Allah has given you good things. You can consume these things here. But now you want something totally different. Do you want to substitute? Do you want to change this for that? And he said, "Atastabdiluna alladhi huwa adna." Do you want to choose what's lower, right? From what's atastabdiluna alladhi huwa adna billadhi huwa khair, then what's above and what's better? Do you want to actually insert your personal choice into a matter where Allah Ta'ala has already told you what's right and what's wrong, what's good and what's bad, what to do and what not to do? And now you want to insert your own choice, and you want to do that because of social pressure, because that's what you see everyone else doing, but so you think it's right. Ihbitu Misran, go ahead and go. Right? Ihbitu Misran, go to the city, go to the city, go to the gathering, go to the whole community, do what everybody's doing. You'll find what you want, right? Do you want what Allah wants? Do you want what Allah has chosen? Do you want the good this fasting that Allah has prescribed for you? This zakat Allah has prescribed for you? This goodness that Allah has prescribed? Do you want that? Or you think, you want something else which is actually lower from you? Lower because it comes from your nafs. Alladhi huwa adna. It comes from the lower self. And because it's material by nature, it's part of the dunya, which also is from adna. The dunya means it's low. It's very material in substance. It's fleeting in substance. So you want what's material, what goes away, what appeals to your lower base desires over what's khair, then go to the city. Go to the community. Do what everybody's doing. Play like everyone's playing. Do that, right? And then what happens? وَضُرِبَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ الذِّلَّةُ وَالْمَسْكَنَةُ وَبَاءُوا بِغَضَبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ. Allah says in that juz. And what happens is you do that, and then you choose what's low, and Allah will decree lowness for you, and will decree bad things for you, and then you end up مَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ. You end up with the anger of Allah, وَبَاءُوا بِغَضَبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ, and you'll excel and be professional and be flying into the displeasure and anger of Allah Ta'ala. So when Allah Ta'ala has chosen something, asked you to do something, instructed you to do something, facilitated things, we follow. That's our source, right? The moment we try to do our own nafsi thing, do things our way, make our own decisions because we know what's best for us, that's wrong. So the second takeaway is choose what's high over what's low. Make sure that your choice is aligned with the mashrab of the Prophet ﷺ, with the mashrab of the Quran, with the core fountain, right, of the divine sources. This is the second point. And the very, very um, last point, that the very last and final takeaway, brothers and sisters, is again the point about resurrection. Always have hope in your condition, and in the human condition, that Allah Ta'ala can revive. So in this Ramadan, make it a habit of every single night in Ramadan, every single day, ask Allah Ta'ala to revive the hearts. If Allah can revive a body, not once, not twice in the, twice in this juz, but 5 times in the whole surah. We'll see the other 3 tomorrow night. Allah can revive hearts. It's easy for Allah Ta'ala, no effort. So ask Allah to revive hearts, revive your hearts. And these are the 3 takeaways. Quarantine your heart, ask Allah to revive the heart, and make your desires aligned, with what is khair, what is good, what Allah loves. Don't choose the adna, choose the khair. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us through our understanding and our reading and our comprehension of this juz. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to take the case study of the Baqarah to mind and to heart. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us and our families and our loved ones from heart disease. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rectify us in this life so that we may be in a state of true falah and success and sa'ada and happiness in the next life. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم لسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Inshallah, tomorrow night we'll continue. Assalamu alaikum.